Hi, I'm Anke Herman. I live in the south of Spain and I offer made-to-measure flamenco dance costumes as well as sewing patterns and instructions to help you make your own. If you come to my sewing studio and have a flamenco dress made, I will obviously take your measurements and then make the pattern and make the outfit for you. If that's not possible, or if you're interested in sewing patterns, I will ask you to send me the measurements. So in this video I'm going to explain how to go about taking them, what to look out for so that we can achieve the best possible fit. There are a number of methods around for drafting patterns and each of them requires a slightly different set of measurements. So in this, the ones that I'll explain in this video naturally refer to the measurements I'll be using when I'm making patterns. I'm going to start off explaining the setup, the equipment you'll need. Don't worry, there isn't an awful lot and it won't take very long either. Then I'll go on to explain the basic measurements needed to make a skirt. So if that's all you're after, you can drop off after that. And then I'll go on to explain the upper body measurements. They're a little bit more involved, but then again, flamenco dance outfit is a very close-fitting garment, so the more measurements we have, the better the fit you can achieve or can expect from your flamenco dress or for your flamenco top. So if you're ready, we can get started. Right, before we go any further, what should you wear? Well, it's pretty simple. Your flamenco dress is a very close-fitting garment, so there isn't meant to be any space between your body and the dress. So wear what you're going to be wearing underneath your flamenco dress. So just your underwear, maybe your tights, that's it. If you are going to be taking upper body measurements, make sure you wear the type of bra you plan on wearing underneath your dress. Push-up bras, sports bras, strapless bras, any of these types of bras will place your boobs in a different spot and that makes a difference. Another thing to point out before we get on to actually taking measurements is your posture. You want to be upright, straight, but relaxed. So not tense like this, you don't slouch, you want a straight, upright posture, and the difficult part is you need to actually maintain that posture throughout the entire process. While that isn't hard to do for the skirt measurements, you'll find it is difficult, if not impossible, for the upper body measurements. So if you are going to be taking these, please do get somebody to help you. You'll see what I mean when I actually explain it. You'll see how difficult it is to place your tape measure where it needs to be placed and maintain your shoulders in the same spot. And if you do move your shoulders, just a tiny bit of movement makes a difference between a fantastic dress and an utter nightmare. Okay, let's get on to the measurements. Okay, let's get started with the measurements we need to make a skirt. First thing, we need to mark our natural waist. And the best thing to do that is using an elastic band. Normal string will do as well, but it just really helps to have an elastic band. Place that around your waist and then you just tie it, and tie it fairly firmly. Just really kind of pull, so obviously not so you're uncomfortable, but do keep it fairly firm, because what that does is actually it does find the narrowest spot around your body by itself. So you want that pretty much in the narrowest area between your waist and your between your hip and your upper body. It's going to probably feel a bit odd because these days we're used to wearing our skirts and trousers fairly low, so having something here is kind of feel, you know, I see people kind of always trying to pull this down. No, keep it there. You know, just keep it, make sure it's horizontal. This is not where your skirt goes. This is just to mark your natural waist, because there'll be a number of measurements going there, from there and to there, so we just want that as a reference for other measurements. And obviously you will be needing a tape measure and somewhere to write all this down. So, okay, we'll just start with the waist. You just place your tape measure around your natural waist. Again, not the skirt waist, none of that yet. So you place your tape measure around and you keep that measurement fairly firm. So you don't want to kind of pull so you can't breathe, but you don't want to have that loose either, because if you keep it too loose now, you'll find yourself taking your skirt in. So that is, firm. If you're getting a skirt that's not a high waist skirt, a normal one, then there will be a measurement called skirt waist. And now you do place it there where you kind of like your skirt to sit. Usually a bit further down. For flamenco skirts, it isn't usually all too far down, because what happens if you have that really low and then you start moving, that skirt slides up, and where it's kind of just has more room, and then it just moves around, and ruffles that are meant to be in the back end up in the front, and it isn't very comfortable. So don't go too low for a flamenco skirt. Also, if you have it really low, you need a fairly long top, otherwise you lift your arms and then you've got your belly hanging out, and that's not very flamenco at all. So usually flamenco skirts, if they're not high waist, they're not really low waist either. But yeah, if you get a normal not high waist skirt, then there will be a measurement where you can indicate that, and also the distance between your skirt waist and your natural waist. Say, okay, now this is that measurement, and that's like 5 centimeters below your natural waist. For any high waist skirt, obviously we need the underbust measurement. So that's around, as the name indicates, it's around your rib cage, just underneath your bust. Same thing here, keep it firm but don't pull it too tight. You need to keep in mind around your rib cage, you don't want to have it too tight, because at the end of a dance you'll be gasping for breath, and if that's restricting here, it's really uncomfortable. Don't keep it loose so it doesn't stick out, but kind of firm. Right, the next one would be your hip. You want to measure around the widest area of your hip. Have a look in the mirror, to see from the side, to really make sure you find the widest area, because keep in mind that flamenco skirt isn't going to have any ease to it. So if you get this wrong and you measure it a bit higher up and it isn't your widest part, chances are you're not going to get into that skirt, or you're not going to be able to close it, and that's not the point. So same thing here, keep it fairly firm but don't pull on it. Now another measurement we always need is hip depth. That's the vertical distance between your waist and your hip measurement. So it's pretty much your waist here, your natural waist here, your hip measurement is there, and so we need to measure the vertical distance. What I usually do is just, before I drop the measuring tape after taking the hip measurement, I just place my finger here, and then you keep straight, don't bend into it, and measure the vertical distance. Place a tape measure to your waist and just go down to where you took the hip measurement. That gives you your hip depth. Well, all that's left in the skirt measurements is the length. So the length is from waist to floor without shoes. It's your body measurement. Same thing, it's not the skirt length. That may well be longer or shorter depending on your personal preference, but what we're asking here is your body measurement. So no shoes here, and also measure from the natural waist down to the floor. If you have somebody to help you, obviously you stand straight, that person takes the measurement. If you're on your own, this one is an easy one to handle. You just hang on to the top of your measuring tape and stand on it, and then slowly leave it loose to pull up until you get with your measurement tape to your waist, and then you just move down and read the measurement right at your foot where you're actually standing on the measuring tape. Well, that's all we need to make a skirt. So I'll see you when I explain to you the upper body measurements. See you in a minute. Okay, now we've got our reference points marked, we can get on to taking the measurements. Right, we start off with center front length. That's from the hollow at the base of your neck straight down to your waist. this is one of these measurements where it's really critical to maintain your upright, relaxed posture, because try it out. If you slouch down a bit, that much difference, and that is quite a lot. So if you were to work with a shorter center front length, you end up having your waist sort of too high, which may not even look that bad on your dress, but feels really awful. Like you constantly feel like pulling this down, and it's just odd and makes some ugly wrinkles here, and just doesn't feel right. So make sure when you take this center front length measurement, you maintain your upright posture. Next one would be front shoulder width, from one shoulder point to the other across the front of your body. See, now there you can see it's one of those that isn't easy to take on your own. So, you know, without moving. You know, I mean, it's always easy to kind of make this, but then, you know, your dress is going to be tight and uncomfortable. So here you want to make sure your shoulders remain in the same place, and you measure from one shoulder point to the next. Front shoulder width. The next one we've got is front shoulder slope, which is from that shoulder point, and you just measure right the center of the point, diagonally across to the center front point of your waist. Same sort of thing. Don't slouch, don't move, just maintain upright. That's front shoulder slope. Next one would be shoulder length. Obviously, you measure along that line we drew from the necklace here to your shoulder point. So you have to imagine that necklace. You know, if you were to close this here, this is where a shirt collar would go. So if you get a top with a collar, this is pretty much where it would go. So if that's too far out, then your collar is sticking out somewhere odd where it shouldn't be. So that's why this necklace is really helpful, because it helps you find, because otherwise if you don't have that, it's like, where do you go? Here or there, or it's all a bit kind of shady. So having this necklace hanging here, you know where to start measuring. You use that same point again, where this shoulder line meets the necklace. Go from there and measure down to your bust point, the point that sticks out most, right there. Shoulder to bust. Another one would be bust to bust. That's from one bust point to the another. So you just find the point where it most sticks out. Be pretty much where your nipple is, from one to the other. These measurements are important because pretty much all flamenco tops or dresses have princess seams, and these seams will come across here, either from there or from there, but they come across here and, you know, make it possible to have this really narrow fit. And if that seam doesn't come across the right place, I've seen it, if that comes across here, it makes your bust looks really ugly and flat and too big and just not right. So these seams need to come along here, across here, right in the right spot. So that's why we need shoulder to bust and bust to bust measurement. Your neck measurement would be just around your neck, just that. Right, underbust we've already taken for the skirt, but I'll just measure it again. You know, you go around your rib cage, just under your bust, keep the measuring tape horizontal. There you go. Bust would be probably one that doesn't need much explaining. You go across the fullest part of your bust. Same thing, keep the measuring tape horizontal. Don't pull too tight, but don't have it loose either. And now move it up so it comes along here under your arms, and just measure across your chest there. Right, now we've got all these, and now we have to do the same thing in the back. So we need center back length. So here we can use the necklace as a starting point. If you didn't put one, so you just bend your head forward, and the first vertebra you can feel, that's your point where you start, where you place your measuring tape, and then measure straight down to your waist, right in the center where you spine it. Same thing, keep straight, keep maintaining the same posture, so that it all matches up in the end. Then we've got back shoulder width. Is pretty much the opposite of front shoulder width. It goes from one shoulder point to the next. But you see, kind of like to take this on your own is really quite hard without, well, it's not hard, it's just hard without moving your shoulders. So that's another one where it's really important to get somebody to take that for you. So you measure from one shoulder point to the next. Then we've got back shoulder slope. Wow, that is probably the hardest one to take on your own, so I really wouldn't recommend it. So I just try to show you. So you go from the same shoulder point right down to your waist, right in the center, where you spine it. Remain upright and take that measurement there. Okay, so we've got your body measurements. What's missing now is the arm. Okay, first sleeve length. Here we go again. Shoulder point across along slightly bent elbow, down to your wrist. And I usually go a little bit beyond the wrist bone, because you don't want to have a sleeve too short. I mean, I guess I've got long arms, so I always have this paranoia, don't like short sleeves. But also there's the thing when you're flamenco dancing, you lift your arms, and so your sleeve comes down anyway. So if it's already fairly short here, you lift your arms, it kind of comes up to there. It doesn't look very elegant at all. So, it's better to have the sleeve a little bit too long than having it too short. So that's your sleeve length. Then we've got biceps. I usually even say to people to measure it on your stronger arm, and also to measure it to get that muscle out, because you'll find a lot of flamenco tops have very narrow, long sleeves, so it looks really nice, but then you have to keep in mind, flamenco dancing, you will lift your arms, so you don't want to have it too tight, because if you measure it with your arm hanging down, okay, I'll try to show you. So that's one measurement, but then when you lift your arm, you'll note that it's probably a couple of centimeters more, and so if there isn't much room to play, it makes a difference. So take that measurement with that muscle out, and no need to go to the gym to get that, but just keep it in mind. You don't want to have that too tight, your biceps. Another measurement that's quite important is just around your elbow. Same thing, take it on your stronger arm. If you're right-handed, it would be probably your right arm. And take that measurement just across just underneath your elbow. Because that's also one that if you bend your arm and this is too tight, it's really uncomfortable. So you do want that measurement, and I mean, here you can even be a bit generous. Right, so there we have it. There's one other one that you probably don't need to measure, what most people actually know. That's your body height from floor to the top of your head, no shoes. Okay, then if you're getting a pattern or a skirt for any particular garment, then obviously, there may be one or the other measurement that you will need that we didn't cover here. But yeah, maybe sleeve length. So it's like, okay, you want your sleeve to go down to here, so you measure from your shoulder point to down there. Or, you know, there might be skirt length that would be from here, from here to floor, plus, depending on where you'd like to go, your skirt to go, you know, cover half the heel of your shoe, go right down, or go up to your ankle. That's just kind of personal preferences, and that's just little bits and pieces that may change, may vary from one garment to another, but that's pretty much it. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask. Down in the description you'll find links to my websites. Both have contact forms, so you can also leave a comment at the bottom of this video. So I hope you're a bit better off now and know how to go about taking your measurements, and so off you go. Get some flamenco clothing and get dancing. Have fun. Bye.